Welcome back, everyone. If you're a focused learner looking to understand the real forces shaping our modern world, you are in exactly the right place for this explainer. Today, we're looking at a pretty extreme global work culture phenomenon. I mean, it has literally rewritten the rules of work-life balance for millions of people. It's a labor system that was born in the booming tech hubs of China, but its shockwaves, they are absolutely being felt across the globe right now. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. Think of this agenda as your survival guide to understanding a massive modern labor shift. We'll be covering the 72-hour workweek, tech giants and hustle culture, the severe human cost, the GitHub digital rebellion, and finally, we'll ask, is this coming to Silicon Valley? Let's get started. Chapter 1. The 72-hour workweek. To truly grasp the impact of this phenomenon, we first need to define exactly what this grueling schedule looks like at a foundational, day-to-day level. I want you to just take a second and imagine working 72 hours every single week, not just during a crunch period, not just for a big product launch, but as your baseline, everyday reality. That number comes from requiring employees to clock in at 9 a.m., stay until 9 p.m., and do this 6 days a week. 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. That formula is exactly what gives this system its notorious name, 996. So the crucial point is how this completely upends a normal life. Just compared to typical 40-hour schedule, which, actually leaves some time for family, rest, and yourself, with a 996 schedule that essentially devours your entire waking day. Historically, in Chinese IT companies, this wasn't just some unspoken expectation. Companies built their entire culture around it, heavily focusing on speed and cost reduction. They even actively incentivized employees to stay late into the night by offering perks like directly reimbursing their late-night taxi fares. Moving right along to Chapter 2, Tech Giants and Hustle Culture. To understand why a 72-hour workweek became so widespread, we really have to look objectively at the corporate rationale. For years, some of the most influential industry titans openly championed the 996 system. Take Alibaba's co-founder Jack Ma, for example. He publicly defended the practice, stating that workers should consider 996 a huge blessing. His argument is pretty straightforward. From an executive perspective, extreme effort and time are simply the required formulas to achieve massive success in a highly competitive global market. In his view, you just cannot achieve what you want without paying that extra price and time. And well, he definitely wasn't alone. Other major business leaders echoed this exact sentiment. Richard Liu, the founder of the e-commerce giant JD.com, pushed his employees to the limit as well. During a period of company layoffs, Liu stated that there were too many slackers and that they were not his brothers. He asserted that while he didn't technically force a 996 schedule, every single person must have the fundamental desire to push themselves to their absolute limit. Which brings us to Chapter 3, the severe human cost. Now, there is an incredibly stark divide between the billionaire's perspective on productivity and the actual worker's reality. Working long hours with very few breaks takes a massive toll on the human body and mind. And this brilliantly illustrates the crisis. According to China's state-owned People's Daily, a 2013 survey showed that an astonishing 98.8% of Chinese IT industry workers reported experiencing health problems. I mean, that is virtually everyone. This manifests as chronic fatigue, musculoskeletal pain, sleep and eating disorders, intense occupational stress, and just a total breakdown of work-family balance. But unfortunately, it gets much darker than fatigue. The extreme end of this culture leads to something known as karoshi, which literally translates to death from overwork. Tragically, there have been highly publicized instances of sudden deaths and suicides at major tech firms linked to this intense culture. For example, in early 2021, the e-commerce platform Pinduoduo faced massive backlash following the overworked death of a 22-year-old worker, and shortly after, the suicide of another employee. In 2022, a 28-year-old employee at TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, died suddenly after feeling dizzy at the company gym. These incidents impartially highlight the absolute life and death stakes at the center of the 996 debate. Chapter 4. The GitHub Digital Rebellion. Facing these severe health risks and total exhaustion, tech workers didn't just quietly accept their fate. They actually organized a massive, brilliant digital labor movement. In March 2019, coders used the very tools of their trade to protest. They created a repository and website on GitHub, a platform normally used by developers to host and collaborate on software code. They named the project 996.icu. The meaning was clear, powerful, and pretty grim. If you work the 996 schedule, you will risk poor health and end up in the intensive care unit. The core slogan of this campaign was "Developers' Lives Matter." When you place this side by side with Jack Ma's quote calling 996 a huge blessing, you can really see the incredible deep divide between executive business goals and the basic biological survival of the employees who are actually building those businesses. Now, what's really interesting about this timeline is the staggering viral speed of this digital protest. It spread like wildfire. The repository was created on March 26, 2019. Just 2 days later, it had 50,000 stars, which is kind of GitHub's equivalent of a like. By April 9th, it hit 200,000 stars, making it the second most starred repository on the entire GitHub platform. It became a massive, undeniable digital megaphone. Let's see how this builds, because it rapidly escalated from a simple list of complaints into real, tangible action. The movement created the Anti-996 license, which explicitly prohibited companies using the 996 system from using their open-source code. Naturally, the corporate response was swift. Major Chinese tech giants like Tencent, Alibaba, and Keyhole 360 used their web browsers to completely block access to the 996.icu page, labeling it an illegal site. But in a remarkable show of international solidarity, tech workers in the US at Microsoft and GitHub actually created a support repository to back the Chinese workers and protect the campaign from censorship. This massive digital outcry, coupled with mounting pressure and severe criticism from Chinese state media, who, by the way, argued that true hard work shouldn't mean exchanging your life for money, well, it led to a major legal milestone. On August 27, 2021, China's Supreme People's Court officially deemed the 996 working hour system illegal, declaring it a clear-cut violation of labor laws. Finally, Chapter 5, coming to Silicon Valley? So, the battle was won in the courts. But does a legal ruling truly kill hustle culture? That brings us to our final, somewhat surprising twist. Even within China, the ruling didn't just magically solve everything overnight. During the COVID-19 pandemic, as remote work became the norm, an even more extreme variation emerged, the 007 schedule. This basically implies working from midnight to midnight, 7 days a week. It shows that when the pressure to produce is that high, hustle culture simply mutates. It is incredibly hard to kill. And now, that mutation has crossed the Pacific. According to 2025 findings reported by both Wired Magazine and the New York Times, U.S. tech startups in Silicon Valley are now eagerly adopting the 996 schedule. Driven by the intense, highly competitive AI boom, startups are implementing 996 to build faster than their rivals. And legally, they are finding pathways to do this. For instance, California Labor Code Section 515.5 exempts many software engineers from being entitled to overtime pay. The exact same work ethic that caused a digital rebellion in China is now being actively imported by American executives to win the AI race. Which leaves us with this final provocative thought. We've seen the 72-hour workweek championed as a blessing by billionaires and protested as a literal death sentence by the workers living it. Yet, as the AI race heats up and the demand for rapid innovation peaks, will 996 bypass labor laws to become the new, brutal global standard for the tech industry? It is a complex reality reshaping how we view productivity, success, and human limits. Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with me today on this explainer. Keep questioning the systems around you, and I'll see you next time.